Residency, located in the heartland of Lucknow, world famous for its culture and refinement, has been the witness not only of the rise and fall of the emperors and nawabs of Awadh, but also of the high price paid by us to the injustices of the British rule and its oppressions. The archaeological evidences prove the existence of human civilization in and around Lucknow for about 3,500 years in various forms, and findings such as copper relics from Karsanda or the relics from the areas of Dadupur and Kalli in its west. The evidence is available of human habitation and civilization belonging to the period of Mughal Empire. At that time, Lucknow might have been a small town. In 1764, Mughal Emperor and the combined army of Nawab of Awadh had lost its battle against the British army in Buxar. It resulted into the imposition of various demands and new and exacting peace agreement. One of such demands was stationing of a British representative in the court of Awadh. Nawab Shuja'ud-Dawla had ceded to this demand. His purpose was believed to maintain and improve friendly relationship by the discussions and mediation between the Nawab and the British Company. Unfortunately, this friendship later proved to be very costly and fatal to the very existence of Awadh state. In January 1774, Nathaniel Middleton was appointed as the first resident of Awadh. In the meantime, Asaf-ud-Dawla became the new Nawab of Awadh. The demand of money by the British forced him to extort wealth from his mother Bahu Begum, which spoiled their relations. At last, Nawab Asaf-ud-Dawla moved his capital from Faizabad to Lucknow. In the next 75 years, the civilization and culture of Lucknow, its buildings such as mosques, imambaras, Karbalas, temples made it world famous. Its culture, delicacy, refinements, and the beauty of its palaces, gardens, and the refined living of the people became very widely known not only within India but throughout the world. To provide suitable accommodation to the British resident, some land was purchased on the southern bank of River Gomti and to the east of Machi Bhawan. In 1770s, bungalows were constructed for the residence of British resident and his staff. In the very vicinity, Major General Claude Martin also purchased land and constructed houses, which were used by the British citizens, workers, rich people, and businessmen. With the increasing number of officials, the need of residential buildings in this area increased, which gave rise to many more buildings that became more and more pretentious. During the period of Nawab Saadat Ali Khan in 1800 AD, most of the buildings in this area were almost complete. In the east of Residency, along the bank of River Gomti, Claude Martin also got built a very palatial house for himself, which was later purchased by Nawab and was named Koti Farhat Baksh. He even shifted his residence and court to this place in preference of his old palace. Its architectural design was a marvel mixture of Indian and European styles. Many new buildings were also subsequently constructed in this area, like Lal Baradari, Choti Chhatar Manzil, Badi Chhatar Manzil, and others. From the British Residency, the whole skyline looked august, beautiful, and beholding. The Nawab of Awadh used to treat British resident as his guest. But politics has no remorse. It is ruthless. The British residents were all the time intent and busy to pursue their political interests and were increasingly interfering in day-to-day political interests. On the other hand, Residency was becoming competitive to the extension and prestige of the royalty. On the advice of the British Governor-General, Ghaziuddin Haider disconnected himself with the Emperor of Delhi and declared himself as Padshah. He also proposed shifting of Residency to the Barowan building, which is presently famous as Musabagh, on the pretext of the Residency being too close to the royal palaces. But the resident objected to it on the ground of it being too distant. The emperor also did not insist it further and left his wish in the hands of the future. The Emperor Nasiruddin Haider had further desired in 1831 to shift the Residency from its present location to Jabagh and offered to construct a unique palace. However, it was not accepted on the ground of health hazards. After that, the Residency remained at its original place. The last Emperor Wajid Ali Shah, however, got constructed some of his palaces in the southeast directions from the Residency to distance the royal palace from it. This group of palaces became famous as Qaisabagh. The will and efforts to create distance between the Residency was not just incidental. This restlessness was born out of discomfort of the day-to-day interferences and collisions with the rulers of Awadh. Eventually, on 7th February of 1856, the Emperor Wajid Ali Shah was dethroned by the British on the allegations of his incapability and incompetence. He was called by his subjects as Jan-e-Alam out of endearment. With a shattered heart, he started moving towards Calcutta to share his agony with Queen Victoria. In Lucknow, the rule was taken over by Company Bahadur. New system was introduced for the revenue collections. Talukdars were in trouble due to the losses of their ownership and rights of lands, and the public was annoyed by the appointment of the new revenue officials. It was not only the state of Awadh but also other states that fell prey to British atrocities. The Indian sepoys of British Army were also restless. The Mughal Emperor of India was the emperor merely for namesake, but in reality, he was virtually leading the life of a prisoner. On 10th of May 1857, some soldiers rebelled against the British military officers. They went to Delhi and appealed Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar to lead the campaign, and from there, this insurgency was transformed into the rebellion and First War of Independence. How could Awadh remain unaffected by this revolution that was not only deeply restless against the British practices of snatching and seizing away their properties? The son of Emperor Wajid Ali Shah, Burjis Qadr, was declared the new king under the regentship of his mother, Hazrat Mahal. The movement of revolution spread in every street and corner of Lucknow. On 30th May 1857, army refuted the British authority. This news started reaching cities like Allahabad, Jaunpur, Sultanpur, Meerut, Sitapur, etc. In Faizabad, Maulvi Ahmad Ullah Shah led the rebels and marched towards Lucknow. They badly defeated British troops led by Chief Commissioner Sir Henry Lawrence on 30th of June 1857 near Chinhat. Maclean was killed and many other British officers were wounded. The buildings in Chatar Manzil and the palaces of Qaisabagh became the center of the revolutionaries. Due to the increasing pressure, it became increasingly difficult to save and protect both the Residency and the Machi Bhavan simultaneously by the British. Under the instruction of Henry Lawrence, Machi Bhavan was blasted away and all the British took shelter in Residency. The revolutionaries continued making more fierce attacks over Residency. Every day, more and more houses in Residency were destroyed under the cannon fire. On 2nd July, Henry Lawrence became seriously wounded by a cannonball attack. He was kept for treatment in the house of Dr. Ferrer, where he died after 2 days. On July 21, his next in-charge officer, Major Banks, was also wounded in his head and died instantly. The chickenpox and cholera also took away many lives. Conditions worsened even to the extent of death by starvation. During the September, the efforts to protect them led by Havelock and Outram suffered badly. In Kasabagh, General Neil was killed by an expert shooter. The army help was sent from Kanpur along with the army of Hope Grant. They had a confrontation against Awadh armies on the morning of 14th November in Sikandarbag. Both the sides suffered heavily in the fierce battle that continued for 2 hours. Maximum damage was done to Sikandarbag. The British army could reach the Residency after fierce battles at Qadam Rasool, Shah Najaf and Moti Mahal. Campbell was successful to contact the Residency on 17th November. The battle continued for the next 4 successive days. Campbell had realized that it was impossible for him to hold the control over Lucknow. In the midnight of 22nd of November, he ordered the inhabitants to vacate Residency. The control of Lucknow came into the hands of the revolutionaries. The British would succeed to regain the control on Residency after facing tough resistance offered by the armies of Awadh. The siege of 1857 that continued for 86 days became the symbol of bravery shown by the Indian sepoys and the strategic skills used by the trapped Britishers to save Residency. While the impressions of cannonballs tell about the mutiny of 1857, the names written on the remnants indicate their usage. The main entrance through which we enter the Residency today is called Bailey Guard Gate. This entrance gate was constructed in 19th century by Nawab Saadat Ali Khan in the honor of Resident Captain Bailey, and hence it became popular as the Bailey Guard Gate. Next to the Bailey Guard Gate, the building on the right side has been used as the Treasury. There are remains of a fine building close to the Treasury House. This is Banquet Hall. This was also constructed by Nawab Saadat Ali Khan. Perhaps this is the most embellished building. Its royal rooms and stately halls were decorated with costly mirrors, silken divan, and decorative chandeliers. In this building, besides providing costly furniture, very high quality of workmanship was also ensured. On the first floor, the fireplace, built with gachkari, gives the appearance of marble. The damaged fountain near the main entrance is a wonderful specimen of artistic pachikari of black and white marbles. On the left side of the banquet hall, there are remnants of the house of the Residency surgeon, Dr. Ferrer. Next to the residence of Dr. Ferrer, towards the left, the cluster of buildings is known as Begum Koti. Earlier, this koti was in the ownership of Nawab Asif-ud-Daula. Later on, it was sold to some Europeans who used it for trading business of European goods. Afterwards, a European queen of Emperor Nasiruddin Hyder used to live here. After her death, her cousin Sharf-ur-Nisa got built here a beautiful mosque and an Imambara in the Awadh architectural style. Imambara is a beautiful masterpiece of Indo-European style. There are several other remains of the residential buildings around Begum Koti. However, the three-storied palatial building constructed on the northwest near Begum Koti and facing Banquet Hall is the main building for the use of British resident. In the east, main entrance was provided with a portico. On the western side, there was a wide veranda alongside high columns. To reach the roof, there were two sets of circular stairs in the minarets on the north and south sides. This building had many high windows. The roofs were decorated with Italian-style minarets. It is this very building on which the Union Jack, the flag symbol of British Empire, used to fly on. On its southern side, there is an ASI building with a basement in which the British resident used to find relief from the terrible summer of Lucknow. During the siege of 1857, European women and children were given shelter here. The daughter of Colonel Palmer, Susan Palmer, also got wounded here. After siege of 1857, it was turned into a model room presently developed as 1857 Memorial Museum. In this museum, lithographs, excavated items, diorama of the seized Residency, and some other articles related to the 1857 revolution have been displayed. The model originally got built by Thomas More in 1873 reminds us of the state of Residency as it was before 1857. We thus know that before the 1857 revolution, there existed many residential buildings, schools, mosque, church, slaughterhouse, sheep house, post office, brigade mess, barracks, horse square, six squares, but now many of these buildings exist only in ruins. In the northwest of main Residency are the remains of Church of St. Mary and also a cemetery. The church was constructed in 1810 in Gothic architectural style. Now only its remains are present of 2 to 3 feet height. During siege, the church was also used as a storehouse for food items and grocery. Around the church, there is a cemetery with graves of British officers. During the siege of 1857, the number of dead people being very high, they used to be buried near the church with a brief prayer. On its south was a butcher house, sheep house, the residential house of the then Financial Commissioner Gubbins, a racket, tennis court, and several other buildings. On the south of the Residency, there were barracks for the army, stables of horses, 6 square, and the residence of some wealthy people. Out of these, today, only a few buildings have their remains. Archaeological investigations have also brought to light the existence of an efficient water discharge system. The broken down walls of the Residency, the remains of the buildings pierced through the cannonballs, the silently situated cannons, and the writings on the walls as well as the silence-breaking columns seem to be telling the story of the bygone era. This is the story that makes us feel proud for our ancestors who fought and paid high price, even their lives, for their independence and self-respect. Let us all resolve together to protect this heritage, keep it clean, protected, and in a beautiful state so that our coming generations may also feel proud of our ancestors who paid heavily for our independence.